Bon Jovi.
This edition of Rockstars is recorded in Stereo Max Stereo.
It got to a point in high school where you were either going to go to Middlesex County College or work in the Hercules plant, you know, or the DuPont paint factory in Sayreville, or you were going to be a rock and roll star, you know.
Now, from Radio Today Entertainment.
I'd rather die than give up this guitar.
Welcome to Timothy White's Rockstars with Bon Jovi.
When we wrote Bad Name, it was written tongue-in-cheek. You know, it was really supposed to be just funny. I pictured some girl in a miniskirt and this lipstick that she just goes all the way up her cheeks, you know. That kind of an attitude, and it was meant to be nothing but a Saturday night at 3 in the morning kind of an attitude. Lyrically, especially, like, you could see the progression in albums, you know, lyrically and melodically. We like to tell some sort of story. You know, I like to maybe think of things that people can relate to. When we got signed, you know, there was a lot of tough things going on. Like, everyone lost their girlfriends. There was divorces. 2 guys got divorced and left their wives, sold their houses. You know, like, everybody lost everything on the band. The first album, we saw places beyond New Jersey. I went to Paris and London and Tokyo, and, you know, I was like, wow, this is great. But you come back home and you think that everything's going to be the same. It's not the same. It's real different.
Runaway from the first Bon Jovi album. Hi, I'm Jimmy Fink, and welcome to Timothy White's Rockstars. John Bon Jovi used to joke that the name of his band was sometimes mistaken for a spaghetti sauce, but not anymore. In 4 short years, and with just 3 albums under their belts, Bon Jovi has become the most popular band in America. The son of a Sayreville, New Jersey hairdresser, John Bon Jovi was pushing a broom in his cousin's recording studio when one of his songs showed up on a local sampler album. The song Runaway took off, and John quickly assembled a group of players that has matured into one of America's hottest live bands, Bon Jovi. This edition of Rockstars features Timothy White's exclusive interview with John Bon Jovi, along with some insights from his songwriting partner and lead guitarist, Richie Sambora. And for the first time in America, Rockstars presents Bon Jovi recorded live in Tokyo.
We sold out 10 shows in Japan. It's a good way to kick off this world tour. We want to thank everybody for coming out and believing in Bon Jovi.
Now here's the author of the book Rockstars and the former senior editor of Rolling Stone magazine, Timothy White.
The story's been told, and I'd like to talk about it a bit more. You were working at your cousin Tony's studio when you got the demo time, you know, the free time after sort of working around the studio with him to do Runaway. Why don't you explain how that track came about a little bit?
Well, the deal was when I graduated high school, I was in the Rest, and we were playing and we were trying, you know, to get a deal however I could. And I think my father, by this point, figured, you know, this is what this kid's going to do until somebody tells him that he's no good at it. And he had called his cousin, so this guy Tony's actually my second cousin, and he doesn't know him well, but he said, you know, why don't you come and see my kid play one night and tell him if he's got any future in this business, you know? So the guy came, and I guess he sort of liked it, and he says, look, if I can ever give you any advice or anything, give me a call. Well, I graduated school, and I played through that summer, and we were trying to get a deal, and nothing much was happening. So I called him, and I said, you know, look, I'll sweep the floors, I'll run errands, I'll do whatever you want me to do if you'll let me come and hang out at your studio. So they let me, you know, hang out there, and I was the errand boy. And in the meantime, I got to learn how to make records and what this business was all about. And when no one was in the studios, I could go in with whoever was like their rookie assistant engineer kind of thing, and he would learn the board while I was learning to make records. So that was how I got to do it, and I would pull together any of my friends that I could get to play for, you know, for nothing. Or a couple times we went in and I would cut maybe 4 songs at a clip, and I got like the A-team guys, you know, like, and that's how I found, you know, the guys that did Runaway.
Let's talk about a couple songs from the first album. Tell me a favorite song from that first record.
Well, of course, Runaway. We play Get Ready live. That's still a lot of fun to do. We play Breakout live, which I wish now I could rewrite it because I could make it a better song now. But those three songs, I think, stick with me.
Now you gotta show everybody how good you can sing. Say it like this. Whoa, 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 whoa,
Audience participation. That's really the key to the band's success. By the end of the night, I got them singing, I got them dancing, I got them doing, everything. And I might be doing anything, And that's really the way it works. It's that energy back and forth.
We heard Bon Jovi recorded live in Tokyo, Breakout. And we'll hear more of John Bon Jovi's conversation with Timothy White and more of Bon Jovi in concert when Rockstars returns.
There's this thing called Rockstars. It's Saturday Night Live for tonight. And it's a series called Rockstars this week starring Bon Jovi. And we've already found out here at WBCN that John Bon Jovi is the son of a hairdresser. I think that says it all, doesn't it? Living on my hair, as the swinging erudites would say. It's WBCN U2 Saturday. Does continue here on the Rock of Boston. And if you're caller number 14 right now, the BCN contest line, Paul Zabal and Rockin' Regina standing by at 931-1600 to give you a complete U2 album catalog, including U2's new album, The Joshua Tree, which is just brilliant. It's all from your U2 connection, WBCN. Let's return now to Rockstars and Bon Jovi. On the
Now
Rock.
back to John Bon Jovi with Timothy White
Sorry,
on
Tim.
Rockstars.
Sorry, Tim.
As far as most of the world was concerned, Bon Jovi was probably a new pair of jeans or a pizza parlor. People had heard, a couple of songs, but still didn't really know who the band was. So 7,800 Fahrenheit being the temperature that rock melts, and Fahrenheit being used really only in America, it just almost translates to American rock.
After the smoke clears, and it's down to you and I.
On the second album, which was produced, as was the first, by Lance Quinn, who's worked with Aerosmith and a bunch of other people. There are two tracks on that record that have a real nice sort of introspective quality to them, Silent Night and Only Lonely. Weren't both of those written at kind of a lonesome or sort of a transitional period in your life?
When we got signed, there was a lot of tough things going on, like, T quitting the Knockouts and Alec quitting Phantom's Opera to devote a life to being broke. Dave calling up his mom, with, her giving him that Jewish guilt. You're not going to be a doctor? It's like, no, man, I'm going to be a rock and roll star. John said so, You're not going to be a doctor? And, now she knows he's not going to be a doctor, So that was pretty tough on people, you see. So, everyone lost their girlfriends. There was divorces. Two guys got divorced and left their wives, sold their houses. Like everybody lost everything on the band. Then came all the other problems that come with the success, and that's the lawsuits, the people that say they owned you since, you're 18 and signed that contract.
Right.
And you go, wait a minute, you didn't do anything for me, and all that you go through. Well, the first album, we saw places beyond New Jersey. I went to Florida for the first time. I went to Texas, I went to Oklahoma. I went to Paris and London and Tokyo, and, I was like, wow, this is great. Well, you come back home and you think that everything's going to be the same, and you're going to tell everybody your great stories about the world, and it's not the same. It's real different. And, that's what happened with the breakups and that kind of thing. And there's me and Tico living in this, like, little apartment in Philadelphia, making the second record. And, we were pretty miserable a lot, and I was writing, and that's how I came up with, like, Silent Night. And, with Only Lonely, I had this lyrics and the hook and all, and then I said, Dave, we got to work on this tune. And, he plays the piano so well, we sat down, and he came up with the chord progression. And, I started writing from that point of view because it was like, man, this is tough growing up, people come backstage and they say, now I get it. Now I know why kids like it. And it wasn't because we were getting played on the radio or MTV was playing our videos. It was the touring that got the message across. And the message was just, we're having fun. I hope you are.
We heard Only Lonely, Bon Jovi, recorded live in Japan. We started with Silent Night, both songs from the 7800 Degrees Fahrenheit album. Timothy White's Rockstars with Bon Jovi continues in a moment.
Hi, this is John Bon Jovi, and you're listening to the Rock of Boston, WBCN.
Boston.
Welcome back to Timothy White's Rockstars with Bon Jovi.
Shot to the heart, and you're too late, darling. You give love a bad name.
I know you're real serious about your songwriting. Are there certain things that you shoot for? Do you go for emotional impact? Do you like to tell a story?
I think all those things count, lyrically especially, like you could see, or at least I can see, I hope you can see the progression in albums, lyrically and melodically. We like to tell some sort of story, I like to maybe think of things that people can relate to, but like when we wrote Bad Name, it was written tongue-in-cheek, it was really supposed to be just funny. I pictured some girl in a miniskirt and this lipstick that she just goes all the way up her cheeks, that kind of an attitude, and it was meant to be nothing but a Saturday night at 3 a.m. kind of an attitude. So that was really written to be tongue-in-cheek, but then something like Living on a Prayer was supposed to, I think, hit a little more towards home, where people, anybody in particular, not just kids or not just older people, but people that, that are together, and that's really all that mattered. I met a guy in Biloxi, Mississippi 2 days ago, and I was, he come up to me, and he's an older guy, and he was a little shy about even saying hello, and I was ready for the usual, like, you play in one of those rock and roll bands, and I says, yeah, and he goes, but he came up to me and he says, John, my name's Tommy, and believe it or not, my wife's name is Gina, and we went through a lot as young kids, and when she heard that on the radio, it sort of became like a song for us now. And they were, a lot older, and it was like, wow, I just pulled those names out of a hat, and that was pretty cool, to know that you can touch a soft spot, maybe,
There's two from Slippery When Wet, Living on a Prayer. Before that, You Give Love a Bad Name. We'll hear more from John Bon Jovi in conversation with Timothy White, and Bon Jovi live in concert when Rockstars continues. Welcome back to the Bon Jovi edition of Timothy White's Rockstars.
Our town is this place, Saraville. It's a small town. There's no, high rises or nothing like that, The whole town was really that sacred part of town, because it became such a small dot on the earth compared to where I've been now, that it was like, that was sacred to me.
There's a great line in Wild in the Streets, joy comes from a sacred part of town.
That was written about, really, I was thinking about my brother. That was the first song that was written for this album. And it's almost a little superstitious, where they say, all writers have their own little weird things that they got to do when they sit down to write. I had this $65 acoustic guitar that I wrote Runaway on and In and Out of Love and Silent Night and everything, and I sat down with it again and tried to tune it up just one more time, and out came Wild in the Streets, real fast. And I was thinking of my brother, because he's 20 now. He's really a rebel. He'd go out and come home 2 days later, and my mother and father would be crazy, and I'll tell him, Tony, you gotta stay out of trouble, man. You gotta, get your act together. He'd be like, yeah. And he gets in his Camaro, and he's got this old 69 Camaro that's beat to hell, and he's got a tape deck blaring on 10, and that's him, it's his character of this wild-ass little kid. And so I was just thinking about him,
And in producing, I mean, you've had a huge success with Cinderella. Is that sort of a separate career in your mind?
It's an interesting one. See, I didn't produce the Cinderella record. What happened with them was we were recording 7800, and I found them in a club. And make a long story short, went backstage after seeing this kid play for 35 people, maybe 15 were interested, like he was playing an arena. And I says, who writes it? He says, I do. And I says, you want to have a drink? He goes, no, I don't drink. I went, wow. You have a manager? No. Got a record deal? No. I've seen this story before. Yeah. I says, let's talk. And
so you were like an A&R man for Cinderella?
Basically, I got him a business manager and a lawyer, and I told him who to get rid of and who to keep in the band, and now they're 2 million records,
Yeah.
And Richie and I and Desmond are doing Cher.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Cher's making a rock and roll record, and she's cutting one of our songs, which we already did. I remember Bang Bangs, You Shut Me Down, which I've always thought was a smash hit. And I know I'm going to be sorry I gave it to her because we redid it, and it's a killer.
Uh-huh.
And I know I'm going to be sorry. But Cher, babes, if you have a hit with it, you can thank us,
Love It Live, a medley of Shot Through the Heart and Bang Bang, both recorded live in Tokyo from Bon Jovi.
I couldn't ever go in the studio and be the one-man band, like so many other people do, like a Prince or, Aldo or Beauvoir or something, because it wouldn't be a Bon Jovi record anymore.
John Bon Jovi's songwriting partner and lead guitarist Richie Sambora joins us next on Timothy White's Rockstars.
Series, and this week's Rockstars are Bon Jovi. It's in concert at Saturday Night Live. It's WBCN.
We're back on Timothy White's Rockstars with John Bon Jovi.
The thing I think that makes the sound that we have is that cross of my influences with Richie's, because his are Zeppelin, Bad Company, The Who, but mine were the Jukes or Bruce or that kind of thing. That's really how it meshed. Even now, when I'll write a song by myself, I'll go to rehearsal and play it, and I remember Alex saying to me, when you play a song by yourself, it'll sound like it's Tom Petty, but when we play it, it becomes Bon Jovi.
Talking to Richie Sambora, lead guitarist, Bon Jovi.
What's happening?
You and John and Desmond Child have written some sensational songs. You Love a Bad Name, Living on a Prayer, Without Love, I'd Die for You. Also, I should say that you co-wrote 9 of the tracks on The Slippery When Wet.
Right.
You have a couple of favorites?
I think Wanted Dead or Alive is my favorite, and then Living on a Prayer, that's a real close second, man. They're right up there.
Now, why do you like them so much?
Well, Wanted, John and I wrote that in my basement of my parents' house, and where I grew up. And when I was a kid, downstairs in the cellar, that's where the stereo was. And that's where, there's a washing machine there and the clotheslines and stuff like that. And I used to go down, and when I was like 7 years old, make believe I was the Beatles, and I didn't even know how to play anything back then, of course, and I also rehearsed all my garage bands there, and it was a really good vibe down there in the basement. It's like my past was hanging in the in the rafters of the cellar and stuff. So we went down there and we sat there. It was cold, it was in the middle of the winter, and we had the heater and the tape recorder and a couple guitars, and we sat down and said, yeah, let's write something that's real, It's a truthful song about the way we live, and we are cowboys, we're the modern day cowboy, It's like, the cowboys would ride into town, rob the bank, hit the bar, take a lady, take the money and run. We kind of do the same thing. We ride into town, we play the show, we take the money, we take the ladies, we drink the beer, we're gone. We do the same thing the next night in another town. So it's like the same actual thing, and that's the truth about that song.
Wanted, Dead or Alive. Bon Jovi from the LP Slippery When Wet. We started with Let It Rock, also from the third album, and we'll hear more from John Bon Jovi and rejoin Bon Jovi in concert when Timothy White's Rockstars returns.
104, it's Rockstars with Bon Jovi tonight on Saturday Night Live. My name is Tammy Heidi here at WBCN. I'll be rocking you with Back to the Future, and the Animals will be our featured band on Back to the Future here at WBCN. Stay tuned for the Saturday Night Rock and Roll Party, the second part, coming up at 1 o'clock with your host, Ms. Traxler, Lethal Traxler. Lisa is going to make sure that you've got your flood pants on, since it has been raining and there's flood warnings in effect and so on. She'll also make sure that you set your clock ahead here at WBCN.
They're really rocking in Boston. Really rocking in Boston. They're 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 really rocking in Boston.
The Rock of Boston. WBCN Boston.
We're back with John Bon Jovi in conversation with Timothy White on Rockstars.
I put this band together, and it was really thrown together quick. What happened there was 4 weeks became 4 years.
John, I want to ask you a couple questions about growing up in Jersey. Now, I heard that your band at the time played the last dance at your high school.
Yeah.
And after that, there were no more dances.
I think that's about the way it was, I don't know why, but there wasn't ever a lot of school spirit, I mean, the attitude where I went to school was, let's get out of here, As terrible as it sounds now. I remember things like, we had this huge brick wall outside the back door that said Jerry Garcia is God, and that was like where everyone hung out, And to do a school dance, I remember it was a weekend and we were in the cafeteria and we set up and it was a good turnout. And that seemed to be the end of it, I mean, the teachers couldn't handle the kids coming in there and partying that much and getting in that much trouble. And this band, coming in with a horn section. They're like, what? There's 10 guys in the band? They wanted us to pay admission. I said, no, they're in the band. They go, sure. I said, oh, really? And that was probably the end of our Searle High School dance career. I could be the sole reason why it's all over now,
Yeah.
It got to a point in high school where you were either going to go to Middlesex County College or work in the Hercules plant, or the DuPont paint factory in Sayreville, or you were going to be a rock and roll star, And it ends up that the 3 guys that I hung out with all joined the Navy. And I was the only one that stuck it out and, just said, well, I'd rather die than give up this guitar.
Rockstars is produced by Dan Fomento and Ben Manila for Radio Today. Executive producers Jeffrey Rich and Beverly Petrancic. Production assistance from Mark Humble. Special thanks to Doc McGee, Doug Thaler, and Steve Pritchett of McGee Entertainment. Also, Sherry Ring Ginsburg of Polygram Records. Rockstars is based on the book Rockstars by Timothy White. This is Jimmy Fink. Timothy White's Rockstars is a presentation of Radio Today Entertainment.